Let me ask you a question. If you were in the market for a new trail bike, or if you had to even describe what a trail bike is, what would it be? Would it be short travel? Would it be long travel? Would it be mixed wheel? Would it be 29er? Would it have coil or air shock? Would you care what the head angle is or the progression of the suspension? What if one frame could answer yes to all of those options and you wouldn't have to decide? This is the new Trek Fuel EX. Well, actually, it's a Fuel EX, a Fuel MX, and a Fuel LX, all rolled into one frame. But before we get started, I just want to say, full disclosure, I am supported by Trek. But Trek have not asked me to do this video. And frankly, I'm not going to review this bike. I'm not even going to ride it. I'm not going to tell you what it's like, and I'm certainly not going to encourage you to run out and buy it. Unless you want it, of course. However, I do think that this is a really interesting release that we need to talk about. It is potentially changing the future of mountain biking. I know that sounds sensationalist, I know. But in this day and age, where customers are facing a cost of living crisis and companies are frankly going out of business, good brands are going under and going into administration because of stocking issues, this is a really important release and something I think we need to discuss. So, if you're familiar with Trek already, you'll know that the Fuel EX sits between the Top Fuel, which is like a beefed up downcountry bike, and the Slash, which is like a beefed up high pivot enduro bike. But the Gen 6, the predecessor to this year's Fuel EX, was a 145 150mm trail bike. Now this is a fully modular bike. You can adjust the suspension to be between 145 in the rear up to 160mm, and the forks can be 140 up to 170mm. So that bridges the gap between the Top Fuel and the Slash much more closely. If you're familiar with the previous Gen 6 Fuel EX, you will already see that the design is much simpler than it was before. It's a very typical triangle, front triangle. And what this does is it simplifies the design, which means that they've been able to make it lighter. They've also cleared up some room for a bigger water bottle in the center. The internal routing is much less complicated for mechanics, but also they've managed to make it a lot quieter as well. They've also managed to free up more space in the down tube for a bigger storage solution internally, and you get this kind of cool little wallet thing going on there. And also the seat tube is much straighter. It's not curvy, which means maximum dropper insertion depth, which means maximum dropper out the top. Now that doesn't sound any different to many other press releases that have come out recently. I get that. However, there aren't many big brands that are offering multiple rocker links and this little adjustable link down here, which allows you to change the entire bike. Now, flip chips are not new. Granted, there was a flip chip on the last Fuel EX, the Gen 6, but that did not allow you to change wheels. And there are very few bikes out there where the flip chip allows you to change the travel on your forks and your rear suspension. It also allows you to adjust the geometry back to normal when you've changed from a 140 fork to a 170 fork. That is incredible. For those of you who can't decide what a trail bike is, or for those of you who spend most of their time riding a short travel trail bike, but still wouldn't mind a bigger bike for the occasional bike park visit or the trip to finale, this might actually be the solution. Hence why I think it might actually be the future for customers, but also for the industry. I'll speak about that in a bit later. If you have an exacting idea of what you think a trail bike is, if you like short travel with 29er, you can buy the Fuel EX. If you like 29ers with long travel, the 160, 170, you can buy the Fuel LX, the long travel version. And if you're somewhere in between, like me, you can go for the mid travel, the 150, 160, with a mixed wheel setup. The real key interesting thing here is that that is one frame doing all of those three models. You can buy either one, but when you do, you can actually rebuild it into the other model. Okay, let's imagine that you have the Fuel EX, which is the 145, 150mm 29er trail bike, but you want the mid-travel mixed wheel version. That's fine. All you need to do is change the rocker link and the lower link. Now what this does is it corrects the geometry when you add that smaller wheel. So when you add a smaller wheel, the axle lowers because the wheel is smaller, and that drops the back of the bike, which means that you'll get a lower bottom bracket and you'll get slacker angles. So changing the rocker link and changing the lower link corrects that back to the original geometry. It will also boost the rear travel with the same shock, so it will change it from 145 mils of travel to 150 mils of travel. And as well as this boost in suspension, it will change the feel of the suspension as well. It will give you a slightly more progressive feel. And because of that change in progressivity, that means it's quite suitable for a coil shock if you're into that sort of thing. And hey, why not change the forks from 150 to 160? Because you've got a geometry flip chip to make sure that it goes back to a steeper angle when you put the bigger fork on. Now, if you had the Fuel EX, a short travel 29er, and you wanted it to be a long travel bike, you just have to change this link at the top here, the rocker link. And you need to change the shock because you need a complete different stroke length to get that 160mm travel. So that has to change too. And presumably you don't want to be running a 140mm fork with all of that. So you change the forks too. So if you were to put a 170 up there, that's absolutely fine. It will give you 1 degree slacker than the rest of the models with that 63-ish degree head angle. If you don't like that, you can get an angle set adjuster, add a degree in there. Or maybe you want even more and you reduce it and get an angle set adjuster and go to 62 degrees. I think that would be a bit mad, but you get my point. There is options. So this bike is like Lego Meccano, but for adults, and insanely cool that you could actually ride. Let me know what you think about this. Is this mixtape for mountain bikers a good idea? Is it adding complexity? Or do you like the fact that you can change the wheel and the stroke length and the suspension and the forks and have multiple options? Is this a good thing, or is this overcomplicating a mountain bike? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, speaking of options, Trek have brought back Project One MTB. Now, if you're familiar with Trek, you know that Project One for road bikes means fancy custom colors and customization. Project One MTB means just customization of parts. But that's fine because A, it means you can customize the bike. You can choose your EX, your MX, your LX as your base, and then you can change the wheels, you can change the fork, you can change the dropper length, you can change the cockpit. All of these things you can change, which sounds bougie, but actually it should save you money buying a complete model and then having to upgrade things later. So you will get the bike of your dreams from factory. Now, you don't get customized colors, but the standard paint jobs on Trek is absurd. I'm looking at this. This is the Alloy XT model. It's black, right? But it's matte black on shiny black with black flecks and a slightly different black for the logo. Like, it has detail, it has depth. My other bikes as well also look like custom colors. The way that they put attention into the paint jobs these days, it looks like a custom anyway. Also, check out this sort of ice cracked over purple metallic color. Oh my days, it's so good. And some real depth in the metallics and two tones as well. So no, we don't get customized colors, but well, it's pretty customized looking already. So forget N+1, and now it's N plus rocker link and some other parts that you may need, like a wheel or a fork. Okay, that's not very catchy. This is your shape-shifting cousin that one day has a mullet and the next has a mohawk. Okay, that's even cheesier. It's a mixtape. No, look, guys, it's just a bike. It's a trail bike, but it's a really good bike that I think is a great concept for customers and for the industry. Let's dive into that. So why does any of this matter? Why am I talking to you about a new product release like it's a big philosophical question? Because trail biking is getting increasingly blurry. I think maybe it always was blurry. Trail biking to one is mellow laps on flat single track. To another, it's smashing out near enough enduro laps. Some people think trail bikes are poppy and playful with short travel. Some people think trail bikes need to tackle bike parks, so they need to be slacker and more progressive. And maybe it's just because trail biking is a rainbow of different types of riding, much like mountain biking is a rainbow or a blurred line of multiple different off-roading varieties. Trail biking to me does mean single track and mellow laps on a short travel bike, but it also means going to the Alps, going to Finale Ligure and enjoying the trails there, which are inherently more descent oriented. So for me, having a bike that covers 90% of my riding here in the Forest of Dean at home with my mellow single track is all I need. But I would like to have a trail bike that is beefier to go and do my holidays in Switzerland, to go and do my racing occasionally on the weekend. And that is trail biking to me. That variety is trail biking. And of course, it is important in this day and age as well, when we are all living in a cost of living crisis, and multiple bikes for some would be a massive luxury anyway, even before the cost of living crisis. I appreciate that. But for some, they did have multiple bikes. They had the Alps holiday bike and the at-home trail bike. With this, it's a little bit more future-proof. You don't know what your trail riding is going to be. You don't know what you've got planned. And this gives you options. Also, it's a really important question for the industry. Is this the way the industry should go? Because we've got to assume that this is going to cause less stock issues for Trek. I'm not saying that that's why they did it. I think they've brought out what the customers want from a trail bike, something that can genuinely do it all. But we've got to accept that there are a lot of brands that have gone out of business because of too many SKUs, too much stock, predicting that people will buy more than they actually do. We've lost a lot of good brands, and I don't want to see any more go. So if it helps them, I do think this is a really good idea. It's sensible. It's sensible for customers. It's sensible for the industry. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it. Maybe it's not that deep and it's just a Fuel EX. You tell me, guys. Have I read too deeply into this? Is this not a game changer? Is this not the future of mountain biking? Or is it actually genuinely a really good idea for both customers and the industry? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you want a fully modular bike for trail?